Welcome to Greenable Woodbridge. I'm your host, Carolyn Ehrlich. Today's guest is, we have a second mayor in the house. Today's guest is Mayor Victor DeLuca from Maplewood. And aside from the fact that you do so many great things, you know that Maplewood is my second home.
I know.
It was where I was raised, and I just love the town. And I'm proud of it because it is really leading the way in sustainability. And we sit on a lot of committees together with Sustainable Jersey, and we work together. And we also were just recently on a panel together.
Yes, we were.
And I said, I got to get you on the show because you were so great on that panel.
Listen, this is my honor because not only are you from Maplewood, but Woodbridge is like the big Sustainable Jersey town. I mean, you have like, I think a gazillion points.
We do.
And you do, yes.
Over 1,000.
Yes. And like all of us who are trying to put together 350 or 400 points are always looking at Woodbridge and saying, how do you do it? So we have a lot to learn from you.
But one of the ways that I do it is, and this is because I'm a little bit crazy, I go look at all the other towns that are part of Sustainable Jersey, and I go on their websites and I kind of see what are they doing and what can we learn from them, because even though Sustainable Jersey is a competition, we talk about we have the most points and you're competing with other towns your size to see who could be the best. We also share ideas and we work together, and that's one of the beautiful parts about it. And one of the things that we were on this panel about was energy aggregation. We're both doing it, but you spoke so passionately about it. So I'm hoping that when you talk about why you think it's so important, that those people who haven't opted into this program will do so.
Okay. So you're saying I was charged up.
You were so, yes.
Yes, charged up for electric aggregation. So it is talking about, it's almost like talking about paint drying. It's a tough concept.
Right.
Because for so long, people just walk into a room and flick that switch and the light comes on. And you walk out and you never think about where it comes from, where the energy to run your refrigerator or your whatever, your TV you're watching. So it comes from someplace. But we really don't think about it. We get a bill once a month, we pay the bill, and that's it. But the real story behind it is that it has to get generated somewhere. And for a very long time, it's relied on fossil fuel. You know, it's oil, gas, coal. And so in the 90s in New Jersey and across the country, they basically split the way you dealt with energy. They talked about generation and made that competitive, thinking it would bring down the price, which it did not.
Right, that didn't work.
They also thought it would help to generate new technology, which it did. And then the separated distribution, and that is the wires, the poles that we see outside that come into our house. So when you look at your bill, if someone was to really, take the time and look at your bill, there's a charge for generation and a charge for distribution, and it all gets put down, and we all write one check or send on a computer the payment for one number. But this generation is really the sweet spot that we're going for. So for years, even though we've had this generation option, no one really did it because there was no reason to do it.
Right.
Now, though, a bunch of us are come together and say, is this a way we can move the alternative generation field, the solar, the wind, water, hydro, by really providing more of a market? And what that means is that bringing together customers in an aggregation and saying, can we join up and then go out to the marketplace as a larger entity and bid and say, okay, we want you to provide us with a greener and a cheaper source of electricity. It'll still come through the wires and, and be on the poles and the generators. Still going to be in those big transmission lines. But the actual generation, we hope, will come from a greener and it will be a cheaper source. So what we've done is Maplewood has teamed up with 5 other towns Milburn, South Orange, Maplewood, sort of on the south side of Essex County. And then on the north side, we have Glenridge, which is a small town, but then Montclair, which is the largest of them all, and then Verona. So the six of us have come together. We've hired a consultant, or in the process of hiring a consultant, who will go out and talk to these electric generators, these companies that are out there, and we will see if we can get a contract to buy this, and really be able to provide our customers, our residents, who have become customers, a cheaper and a greener source of electricity. Now, when I say cheaper, we're probably talking pennies.
Exactly.
Okay? And maybe it's going to be $5 or $10 a month per family.
Right.
But $100, you're going to get it cheaper, but you're also going to know it's going to be greener.
Exactly.
And that's what's important. And I think if we can make the argument to folks that this is a way to drive the market to get greener production of energy, then more people will hook on. It's a little scary, though, for a municipality. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't want to become blamed for everything when the lights go out.
Right.
When you start this, people are going to be confused. They're going to call town hall instead of either JCP&L or PSE&G.
But your name, the town's name, should never go on the bill.
It
it's
never
the
will.
company that whoever wins your RFP.
But people in our towns are going to say.
So we got a lot of phone calls, but we started it. We say it's the biggest mistake we ever made because we started it wrong. First of all, we did the energy aggregation without the green. We said, we're just going to save you money.
Right.
And our provider said, oh, you got to do all this public outreach. And we go, we don't need public outreach. Well, boy, did we need public outreach. Right. Because people got outraged.
Right.
Like, who are you, the town, to tell us who should be supplying us with with our energy? And aside from that, the savings weren't that big.
Right.
To make it worth the hassle and the switchover. And your program will be an opt-out, which is how ours started as an opt-out.
Right.
But a lot of people, because they just weren't happy either on principle or just because they didn't know, opted out.
Right.
So what we did was when we went out with the second bid and we got all renewable, we're trying to convince people, so everybody who is still in the program is still in it, and they're all very happy. And we actually get letters and phone calls now from people who are happy and like, this is great that the town did this. And we're trying to encourage the people who opted out to come back in because now there really isn't a benefit. There is a benefit. May not financial, some months yes, some months no. Right. But you're just doing the right thing.
Right. And I think that is the argument. And, I understand the libertarian argument that, why is the town making decisions? But I guess what folks are forgetting is somebody made a decision for them that PSE&G or JCP&L is going to be their provider.
Exactly.
So you don't have a choice in the other system.
Right.
At least with us, you have a choice. You can opt out and go back to the system where either the state or the utility is telling you how they're going to generate electricity, or you could be with us where we're going to try to produce a greener portfolio of electric generation. Now, we're far from getting this out onto the street yet. We're going to be rolling this out in the late fall of 2018. Right. We'll have it in place for 2019, but we've been talking to people about it. People are inquisitive. They have a lot of the questions. People want to know, well, if I'm on a payment plan with PSE&G, a monthly payment, does it still work with this? So we're working all those questions out, which are fair. But I think the thing is, and I know what you're talking about with the aggregation without the green piece, and I think that probably is not as much of a selling point.
No.
But I think when people hear you're getting something green, then they feel good about it. I actually pay. There's a program which you can buy green energy, but you pay extra.
Right, you pay more than you're paying now, which isn't going to happen here. Right,
I pay more now to be green. I would love to eliminate that and pay less, even if it's a couple of bucks a month.
Well, one of the reasons we started to embark on this was because there were so many companies trying to sell electric packages to our residents, and some of them were real. And some of them were actually pyramid games.
Yes.
You know, we'll sell you, and if you can sell 3 more, you know, your prices will come down.
Yes,
and
that's exactly
this is what we wanted to try to eliminate, because we don't like people taking advantage of our residents.
Right. And, you know, I think on our case with the 6 towns, we represent over 100,000 people.
So you've got the same buying power that we have.
So when you figure all those residential homes are putting on their lights and kids are playing with all their gadgets and stuff, I think we have the potential to really be able to wheel and deal in the marketplace. And the more we can say that there's a higher, an increasing demand for green energy, the more the market will fund that and develop that, and we'll have more of it.
Right.
That's always the issue. You know, we have plants that are embedded in the fossil fuel production mode, and they're competing with this growing industry in solar and water and wind. And we can, by using our dollars, we can fuel that, if you will, the green part of it. So I think this is a real winner for everybody.
This is so I'm glad you came. And you know, if you want to hop in on our program,
we can do it.
We have 200,000 in it.
We can maybe do that. Right.
And then you might be in it faster than the fall.
Well, it could be.
Right.
It could be. It could be. Yes.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you won't have to do all these RFPs and everything because we've done them already.
Listen, you had one town to deal with. We have 5 others.
I know. That's what's taken so long. That's got to be hard. That's a lot of councils, a lot of mayors.
Every town has to approve it. Every town has to have an ordinance in place. They have to have a resolution designating Maplewood as the lead agency. So it's quite involved. But we think in the end, the marketing material is going to be the same for all the towns.
Right.
And we think, we'll actually have the benefit, as you talked about. We'll learn from each town what kind of resistance, what kind of acceptance they're getting, and that'll be helpful. Yeah.
No, it's a great program. And we're glad that we righted the ship.
Yes.
And we're moving forward now, and hopefully after this show airs, we'll have a lot of people calling and opting back in.
Tons of people. Yes.
So there's another program that I read about, because like I said, I went on your website and I read about what you do, and I love this, and I want to start doing this in Woodbridge. It's called the YARD program. Tell me about that.
So this is a program of 3 green teams, Maplewood, South Orange, and Melbourne, in which you get credits for sustainable yard use or yard care. It's the practices you use. So are you using hand mowers? Are you mulching? Things like that. It's the materials you put on. And then it's the water consumption. Are you using water in an efficient way? And then that gets into rain barrels and reusing water, spot irrigation versus wide irrigation. So, and what you do is you sign up, and there's sort of an incentive because you get certified. You have to get 31 credits, I think. And there's a checklist that you have to sign. You subscribe to it, and then there's just a cohort that gets together and talks about how to do yard work efficiently and sustainably. It's it's a voluntary program. It's on honor system.
Nobody's going out and checking.
I think there's no one's looking in and see if you have any Roundup in your garage. But I think it's a way again to encourage personal behavior and to reward that behavior, whether it's just be a certification or just a recognition among your peers that you are doing something to advance sustainability.
Right. And I think, on a lot of fronts it's really great. First of all, people see that you can do all of these natural landscaping type of things. You can leave the clippings on the lawn.
Right.
You don't have to use chemicals, and you still have a beautiful lawn and garden. And that's that you see. You know, do you put little signs out that say they're part of this?
Yes, there are some acknowledgement signs and stickers and things like that. And that also draws attention to it. So you have neighbors say, well, what is this all about? And then they say, and then I think there's, the other thing is that this is a more formal program, but I think it just drives people to think about what you're just saying is, even though you may not want to go through any kind of certification or registration process, maybe you'll think twice about how you leave the grass clippings there for mulching, or you leave the leaves in the beds through the fall and winter so that you can, provide nutrients to the soil and stuff. So people sort of adopt different things, watering and so I think that's all good, and it again just talks about how we as each individual family can make a contribution to this, because when you talk sometimes about sustainability and environmental challenges, it's just so daunting sometimes. It's so big.
Right, but everybody can do.
Everybody can
one,
do
if you do one little thing, you're having an impact.
I think you need to do both things. I think you need to do that. You need to do that big policy stuff, sort of like the energy aggregation, where you're really making dramatic changes. And then the other thing is just sort of personal. What am I doing as an individual here or family here? What am I willing to compromise on grass or not? And does my lawn have to be a golf course?
Exactly.
What can I live with? How can I use practices that are more sustainable and make sense?
How do you work with the landscapers in town?
Not very well. Because,
I know you have that whole, what is it, the blowing machine?
No. We do work with the land. We actually brought in, we've worked with the landscaping community to talk about green landscaping. We do now have a leaf blower prohibition. Starts in the spring and runs through September 30th.
That was a little bit of a battle for you.
It was a battle, and we're still in court. I mean, they have us in federal court, and but we're in our third season now, and I tell you, it is just remarkable how quiet it is without the commercial leaf blowers. We asked the landscapers to use more sustainable practices, but I think sometimes we are as customers of landscapers our worst enemy, because we want almost like our driveways and sidewalks to be clean enough to eat off of.
Right.
So we're telling them to blow everything and get every blade of grass off it. It's just natural.
Right.
And so what they're telling us, the landscapers, is, well, our clients are telling us to clean this and clean that and get rid of everything and blah, blah, blah. So there has to be, I think, an education both of the landscapers on practices they use, but also on the people who are utilizing the landscapers of, what are you actually trying to accomplish?
Right.
Where's that happy medium? So, but we've talked to landscapers on battery-powered lawnmowers and blowers and mulchers and things like that, and some of them have adopted that and purchased that equipment. We've also talked about just the green practices of soil amendments, keeping stuff in place as opposed to taking it off. Things like that, and particularly don't blow it in the street, because the other thing is
we have that battle too.
This all becomes particulates in the air. It's not just the noise,
right?
But when you hit that leaf blower, you're blowing everything up in the air, stuff that's the dirt, and so you got people who are sensitive. Either they have asthma or respiratory problems, so it's important that landscapers don't feel that the street is their place to do whatever.
And then it goes down the sewer, clogs it up, and then there's flooding, and it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, because that stuff ends up in the waterways.
Right.
And so, it's a challenge to work with the landscaper somehow. And what we were talking about with this landscaper leaf blower prohibition is yes, you have a right as a homeowner to contract with a landscaper, but we need to make sure that you're not externally deporting or promoting all the problems to the greater neighborhood. Noise, the particulates blowing around, stuff in our waterways and sewers. Then it removes off of your property and becomes a social problem, and that's how we say.
And that's where government should step in.
Right, and that's where we have stepped in and say, look, the externalities are important. It's not just what happens in your little, 100 by 100, but it's also what's happening to your neighbors and people who are home during the day who have to listen to the leaf blowers, or kids who are out playing and all of a sudden this cloud of dust comes by, or you see the sewers are clogged and we got to send people to go dig them out because all your grass is in there. So
I give you a lot of credit for having the courage to do that. We pretty much have the philosophy here, buy in, not push back. So we try not to do a lot of ordinances because of the public reaction to it. But I think you're winning that battle.
We are. And let me tell you though, 13 years ago, or maybe now it's 15 years ago, I was the mayor and worked out an agreement with the landscapers not to ban them. It was a voluntary program.
Oh, interesting.
And that they were going to get battery, they were not battery, but they were going to get these packs, these leaf blower backpacks, that were going to be sort of capped at 65 decibels. Everybody swore, oh, we're going to do it, we're blah, blah, blah. So over the years, we would go out and look, and nobody would have it. And we would have the same argument for it. So for 13 years or so, we had this thing of trying voluntarily compliance by the landscaper. It didn't happen. So then we went to this next stage. Then the landscapers came and blamed us for not enforcing it for 13 years.
Oh, it's always your fault.
So I understand the sort of voluntary compliance, the promotion, the education, but we just got to the point where they were just like thumbing their nose at us.
Right.
And we said, you know what? We think this is the wrong way to go, and we're going to put the ordinance in place. And we did it with a pilot. It worked. Then we passed the ordinance, and now we're in year 2 of the ordinance. So 3 years. So we'll see what happens.
Good. I'm following that.
We'll be in court for sure.
Are. So you mentioned, and I don't know what this is, so I'm figuring a lot of people that are watching this don't know what this is. What's drip irrigation?
Oh, so the drip irrigation is just how you do this piping, so that essentially what you would, let's say a rain barrel, so you would collect your rain barrel and then you would have either a hosing or piping situation where you could intensify the delivery of water in certain areas, and you could move it around by.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just a way of instead of having a sprinkler that just sprinkles everywhere.
Just where you need it.
You can you can sort of have it in tracks, and you can move the tracks, or you can have permanent tracks where you would deliver the irrigation to the root base, as opposed to the sprinkler system, which does
the top
and gets to the roots, but it's a different, much different type of system, and you lose a lot because of the sprinkler in evaporation. You're also wetting usually a larger area than you need. Oftentimes sidewalks as people are walking by.
Right.
So the drip irrigation, and it's not for everything, but it's just more if you have certainly if you have vegetables. You can do it that way. You bring it into the base system, and you can do it all that way. So it's very simple with PVC piping or hosing and stuff, and you work that way.
So my next question, I know it probably will take you a half an hour to answer this, but
not.
We're down to 5 minutes. Okay. So our mayor has been very big on redoing all of our fields with the turf fields.
Yes.
And everything is new and beautiful. But I know you went a different route, and if it works, I'm trying to get our guys down just to take a look at it because it intrigues me. So if you could just talk about your natural fields a little bit.
Well, let me give you the long story with it. We probably have 4 minutes left, but We voted years ago on a compromise to partially turf this field now where we have it's DeHart Field. The citizens, after we approved it, went out and got a referendum and overturned our decision.
Wow.
They did not want turf.
I love your citizens.
Yeah.
Good old Maplewood.
So we put this organic field down, and it requires a lot of love and tenderness. Irrigation, fertilization, aeration. In the winter, we have to put blankets on the field.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
forget it.
We're touchy-feely. So the problem is, we have now really got the root base to take. But as I'm sure you have the same problem here, is the intensification of use is the real problem.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
it's not what's on the
the
ground.
field.
It's not the turf, because even turfs you have to replace after.
Yep.
Depending on
The
how
mayor
much.
started 11 years ago,
Yeah,
and the first one we did,
Yes.
Woodbridge High, is
Yes.
being done again.
Yes.
It's 11 years old now.
Right. So you can generally get about 10 years, and some even less because of the intensity of use. So we've had to close the field because when you're using natural grass, you've got to rest it. So what we've done is move people. So instead of playing north and south, they play east and west. But we have, soccer is the game. And you're the mayor or you're a council person, and you're saying we're closing the field, and all of a sudden you got 30 people out there wanting to play. Probably
That
close to
doesn't work.
50 families when you're talking about everybody who's involved. On each game,
Right.
you're saying,
You got a problem.
no, you got a problem. So, why am I paying taxes if I can't play on the field? So, right now we are in the best shape we've ever been with our
Glad to hear
turf
that.
field.
Good.
But it is a challenge. It is a challenge to keep it up. And I think the other difficulty, and this actually goes to a little bit of our conversation about grass. Now that so many people have played on turf, the expectation of having a nice, even
That's
is sort
right.
of now raised to, the natural grass has got a little divot here. It's
Yeah.
uneven a little bit, which
Right.
is what natural is.
Good, right, yeah. Not perfect.
But everybody wants that flat, pressed, nice turf that you see. So you get a little bit of the pushback of, it's nice and green and it's natural, but my kids are running and dirt is popping up and pieces are falling off and they're falling and they're getting muddy and everything, and that's natural.
Right.
But
it's working better in the backyards than it is on the
it's a
soccer
challenge.
fields.
It's a challenge. I think it was the right thing to do because we wanted to experiment. We're not big users of synthetic fertilizers anywhere in our parks, but this one in particular, the amendments are such that they're organic, and we're trying to. The other problem is this is built on a field that has a very strong clay base, and the irrigation is
Woodbridge
a problem.
is clay.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So we have to wrap up now.
Okay.
But you know what? I'm kind of glad, we talked about the big picture, and then we go, because being sustainable is also a challenge.
It is a challenge.
And it's a lot of experimenting and a lot of learning.
And it can be expensive.
And expensive.
But
well, we're trying to do it on the cheap.
Yes.
But this is really fascinating.
Well, thank you.
And want to continue working together
We will.
and our partnership, and I appreciate that you took the time to come here.
Thanks for asking.
So thank you for watching Greenable Woodbridge and being part of the excitement and part of the change.